God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows.
Welcome to the 18th episode of Your Journey is Not Over. My name is Tanya Pearson Randolph. This is my own personal journey, and the expressions and opinions are of my own. I own all the rights to my personal journey, and to Your Journey is Not Over. Neither are to be used, copied, or edited in any way without my consent. Life really changed for me. I was used to living alone, had my own routine, did what I wanted, stayed up late, went with my boyfriend whenever. Because believe it or not, with all of that freedom, you would have thought I would have went wild. I might have went down that dark path had it not truly been for my boyfriend. Like I said before, he brought structure and expected me to be my best and act my best. So I went to school and I went with my boyfriend. Other than that, I was home. So I wasn't wild by all means, still quiet except for those close to me. So now there were two adults living in our apartment, and June Cleaver, my mom, was trying to pull off this fake illusion and that I was just a bad kid. I wasn't too nice, if I'm being honest. Wasn't used to being around her for long periods of time. She would come and go, maybe on an average before this. She might have spent 2 nights a month at our apartment, and sometimes not even that. So my space was a little crowded, to say the least. My stepdad was nice enough and really tried to talk to me. I wasn't having it. It's not like in the movies where everyone just becomes one big happy family. Oh no. I just remember not having a lot to say. I observed, I should say. I was short when we did talk and smart mouth. Remember, I was all grown up. Or so I thought. So after school, they would come home from work, fix dinner. Yes, we actually had food. What I look back and think about is you would have thought I would have embraced this new family life, right? Living like I had to, and always in survival mode, you would have thought this would have been a fairy tale ending to a horrible journey for me. I sure didn't see it that way then. It was an invasion of my space. And I had been on my own, so I was used to it. That had become all that I knew, my normal. So a lot to get used to quickly. I know the adjustment was hard for my stepdad too, and now I truly do feel bad for it. I played some tricks too. I convinced him that my mom wore a wig. He truly believed me too. Like I said in my last podcast, the movie Parent Trap would come real close to our relationship in the beginning. I know he in no way understood my relationship or lack thereof with my mom, and I know he tried to help us come together. Let's just say they were newly married and she was on her best behavior, and of course I was this too grown-up 12-year-old with a cocky attitude and a smart mouth. So looking back, I played right into what she was selling. He had no clue. God bless, he would soon learn. I remember I went to my grandma's for a weekend, and she set me on the Davenport, never couch, and told me she wanted to talk to me. Never has she done this, so she definitely had my attention. So we sat next to each other, and she patted my leg several times and told me I should be nice to my new stepdad. He seemed like a nice man, and truly my grandma thought the world of him. She just adored him. She told me, I know you have been hurt, and you don't trust, but God can't bring you blessings if you don't open your heart for them. I had been through so much at this point, of course, never thought of it that way until being on my healing journey. Everything I went through was just my life. It was what I was born into. I knew nothing but. A child born of circumstances is how I best described it. I did tell her I would try for her. I would have done anything for my grandma. She was my grandma, and she was also my best friend. She was everything to me. Also, during this little chit chat, she asked me to promise her something. I told her anything. She said, "Promise me that no matter what your mom does to you, that you won't ever put your hands on your mother. Never strike her back." Of course, I promised her, not understanding the importance of this promise until a few years later. My grandma knew my mom would hit on me and would nitpick me and always had a habit of backhanding me with her rings on, and it would bust my lips. The rings and the bracelets combined could be something as small as me humming when I would eat. Only thing I can think of right now, looking back on that I was starved so much that when I would get food, I would enjoy it so much that I would hum. Another one of her triggers was what she would call my ugly big lips, or how I would curl them up at her. Of course, with braces, you do move your lips different. I was intimidated and I was scared of her. And if she wasn't physical with me, there was always a verbal breakdown of everything she despised of me. What was I to do? She was the only parent I had. I had no dad up until this point, and the adopted dad I had was horrible. So I probably thought anyone my mom married was going to be just like he was. Plain and simple, I didn't trust anybody new. And then it was a real slow process to even begin to get close to me. Guarded is an understatement. Slowly, I did start being nicer and talking to him more. Really, no choice, he lived in my space. But a very kind and caring man, and I could tell, even at that young age, he truly was trying. He had children, so I had two more brothers and a little sister. By the way, they were all amazing. They lived about 3 hours away from where we lived, so I didn't get to see them that much, but it was always great when I did. I look back on those memories, and it was an instant bond with my new brothers. My little sister was younger, so she didn't come to visit like the boys did, sadly. My stepdad was a high school teacher, so dealing with kids was definitely something he knew a lot about. God knew it was going to take someone just like him to get to me. Break my heart outer shell. Again, my way of seeing things, okay? God seen me, and of course knew all that I'd been through, and of course what was to come in my journey, and said, "Okay," to my stepdad, "you're just the man for the assignment. If anyone can give this little girl guidance, structure, normalcy, understanding, love, and compassion, and make this little girl see that there is still so much good in the world, give her someone to look up to and to admire and respect, then it's you. You're the man for the job." And he truly was perfect for the job. No one better. God knew exactly what he was doing. My stepdad was starting to figure me out and why I acted the way I did. Didn't take him long. He would buffer between me and my mom a lot, get her off of me if she was hitting on me. Of course, he always had to walk a fine line so not to offend her or make it look like he was taking up for me. A tightrope he and I both walked around her because we didn't want her to get insecure that he and I were actually getting along. My mom loved and thrived off of drama and chaos and loved playing people against other people. And then she would always play the victim, same as the same game she played with my brother. Now with my stepdad. Never wanted anyone close to me and always made up stuff to make me look bad. And her look golden. I was literally walking on eggshells around her most of the time, and this was my whole life. Always trying my best not to do anything at all to set her off. I think sometimes the sight of me could do it, or me breathing wrong would do it. Was a horrible way to live. I was a nervous wreck all the time, scared, intimidated. But what could I do? Nothing, nothing at all. I had no choice but to live like that. Again, it was all I had ever known. So when I could, I was letting my stepdad know just who my mom really was, giving him an education, so to speak. I did let him know about how I'd lived alone for the past few years, and with no food except for school lunches, and of course explain my relationship with my boyfriend and how he had stepped in and made sure I was taken care of, and also that my mom had tried to commit suicide 3 times by this point. Once when I was in 3rd grade, when my brother and I got the blame for it. 2 times since we moved to this apartment. Nothing like getting off of the school bus Just like before, almost like a deja vu from third grade, except for my brother wasn't there those times to reassure me and tell me it was going to be okay. Seeing an ambulance at our apartment was heart stopping for me. Yes, she and I had no relationship, and what little we were around each other wasn't pleasant, but she was all I had. I would describe it almost like Stockholm Syndrome now. I did love her. I was taught to love her by my grandma, and I truly tried with her, but it never got me loved, cared for, nurtured in return. The suicide attempts really did traumatize me, scare me, left me feeling scared and helpless. I'm sure I was part of the blame to hear her tell it. I do want to say thank you to a lifelong friend that came running to me the first time she tried to commit suicide at this apartment. I barely knew this girl. I was still quiet and to myself, except for my best friend and a couple other friends. Small circle. But out of the blue, I felt someone's arms come around me from behind as I'm standing there, a complete mess, watching them load my mom up into the ambulance. I will never forget this girl. She will always have a place in my heart. And she said, "It's okay, I got you. She's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." In fact, she was there with that love and compassion and friendship both times this happened. No matter how much time goes by, I have never forgot her and will always be so grateful to her. You know who you are, and if I've never said it, please let me say it now. Thank you for being there for me and with me through those traumatizing moments. And I love you always and forever. So, yes, my stepdad was slowly beginning to see everything for what it actually was and starting to understand me and why I was and acted the way I did. I don't think I had opened up about the abuse or the molestations I had endured at this point. No need to overload him, or I was still guarded about who knew. I didn't have my voice yet or the courage to talk openly about it with anyone but my boyfriend. October 3rd was my grandma's birthday, and I remember staying with her while my stepdad and mom went and got her a new TV and a TV stand. She and I both were excited because the new one was in color and her old one was black and white. It was a big deal. That year, I remember a big Thanksgiving get together with my grandma and the whole family. I stayed with her that whole weekend because school was out. I remember this like it was yesterday. When I stayed with her, she always slept on the Davenport. Done this the last 9 years, ever since my grandpa passed away. She never once slept in their bed. So she slept on the Davenport, and I slept on the floor on a pallet I made with blankets. When it was bedtime, we would shut everything off and lay there and talk. I asked her a question. She didn't answer me. So I always watched her blankets to see if she was breathing. Don't ask me why I would do that, but I would. And I watched, and I didn't see the blankets rise and fall. So I panicked, and I jumped up and I hollered, "Grandma." She answered me then. I remember just relief. And she started laughing and said, "What? Did I scare you? Did you think I had died?" I told her it scared me. So our conversation about death began. How when you die, you're never really gone as long as you keep them in your heart. And how you go to heaven, which is home, and where God is. And how He is right there, ready and waiting for you. And how beautiful heaven is supposed to be, with no pain, no fears, no tears in heaven. How she would be reunited with my grandpa. She sang, which she did often for me, the song, "Ain't No Grave Gonna Hold This Body Down." When she was done singing, I said to her, "Grandma, promise me you won't die while I'm here." I was the only grandchild that stayed with her, and I was there a lot. It was what I'd always thought of as my home. And not seeing the blankets move that night had really scared me. I told her I wouldn't know what to do or how I could handle that. Her response to me was, "Baby, I have no control over that. Only God knows when He will call me home." Had no way of knowing this, but that would be the very last night I would ever have with my grandma. This concludes my podcast for today. Before I close today, I want to ask everyone to please say some prayers for everyone in Florida and in the Gulf that are enduring Hurricane Helen right now. We definitely want to say a lot of prayers for them. And please join me Tuesday. Always remember, Your journey is not over. God bless.
God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been